This is going to be another short podcast in which I'm going to discuss an ethical dilemma that I've stolen from a book, as I'll talk about, but hope to give a bit of a twist to. A version of this dilemma appears in Techman and Evans' book called Philosophy, A Beginner's Guide. Although I've since lost the book because I lent it to a student foolishly, I'm sure I read it in there and then adapted it. So it's from Techman and Evans' Philosophy, A Beginner's Guide, which is a good book. This example can be used to analyse how you would react if you were a utilitarian, if you had a more duty-based approach to ethics, or if you took a more individual approach, perhaps from virtue ethics or something else. So the point of it is to give you a context in which to say, what would you do given that, and more importantly, why? So the example as I normally give it in class. Say you are, as a group, trekking through the South American jungle. We've gone on a field trip for some unknown reason to the South American jungle, and we're going through the jungle, as you would, and this is all fine, but then we discover ourselves to be having problems. We are surrounded by armed men and women for equal opportunity, and they're all pointing guns at us, and it doesn't look quite so good. They shepherd us to a clearing where things don't look any better. So we're now surrounded by armed people, and not only have they got guns, but we're shepherded into this clearing that's full of guns and jeeps, and you can imagine the kind of movie like scene. We're taken to their leader. Let's give him a nice stereotypical South American name. Sorry for any offense. Let's call him Captain Ramos. So we're taken to Captain Ramos, and his compatriots speak to him, and he speaks to us, and he says, "Right, what are you doing? We've found you messing about in the jungle here. We're in conflict with the government. We're the rebel forces in conflict with the government. We think you might be spies. We don't think you should be here." And you start to get a feeling this isn't going spectacularly well. They're probably going to kill you, or kidnap you, or ransom you, or it's not going well. So you try and explain yourselves. You say, "Oh, we're students from the University of Gloucestershire. Please don't kill us." And maybe you cry a bit. So you do that, and luckily his demeanour changes. He says, Gloucestershire. I went to school in Gloucestershire. Now, far be it from me to suggest that the private schools of Cheltenham educate the world's dictators' children. I'm sure that isn't true. But say he went to school at a private school in Gloucestershire, and he said, happy days, is so-and-so still there? I remember days on the prom and days walking around Montpellier Park having ice creams, and you strike up a rapport during which time you think, maybe he won't kill us. That's good. It's a good thing. So you develop a rapport with him and think, phew. But then just as you're going to go and feel relaxed, he says, join us for lunch, but in celebration of this special day that it's turning out to be, perhaps you can help me with something. And he takes you off and he chooses you, i.e. out of the group he chooses the person that is you. And he says, I've caught these 10 people from a local village, and we don't actually have a common language with them, so I'm not sure what they're doing, but they might be spying or not. But we're going to show that you don't mess with us. So I was about to kill them all and have their bodies chucked on the road. But in the celebration of your special visit and the spirit of Gloucestershire and all that is great in the Cotswolds, if you'll just, and he places the revolver in your hand, if you'll just shoot one of them in the head, we'll let the other 9 go as a sign of my compassion. He says, you have to. If you don't feel comfy shooting a stranger in the head, I'll get my colleague here to shoot all 10 as originally planned, and we'll just carry on from there. Now that is where the dilemma really begins, because you've got a gun in your hand and you think, well, if I shoot one person, these 9 other people will leave and be alive, live even. But if I say no, I'm not really comfy. shooting strangers in the face, then all 10 will die. So do you kill one completely innocent stranger, as far as you know, to save the life of 9, or do you do nothing and not kill them and allow 10 to die? This is where you face the dilemma. I normally at this point have to rule out any James Bond solution, in that often with young males, not always, but often male students, they say, oh, well, I've grabbed the gun, I've kept it in Rouse's head and I'll shoot them. No one's going to have any kind of solution like that. You've got to choose. Excuse me, which of these solutions you're going to, which of these paths you're going to go down. If you're a utilitarian, you might think, well, it's easy, isn't it? It's just hedonic calculus. 10 people die, or 1 people die. 1 person dies even. That shouldn't be a difficult decision. But you might think, I can't kill a complete stranger. I don't know what's going to happen. I might not kill one stranger, and this is, I was only joking, I will never kill these people, or not. So what would you do? Would you kill 1 person? Would you look at them in the eyes and shoot them in the face? Or not? Now, how would you feel if you were put in that situation? I mean, many of us actually don't know. I think the honest answer is we don't know how we'd feel, whether we can even do it, even if we thought it was the right thing to do. The dilemma might be further complicated by adding another layer by saying, perhaps you are there to study tribes people and you've got a shared language with these people. That might allow you to converse with them and ask them what they think, if that's helpful. Alternatively, whether you do or don't have a shared language with them, there might be the issue of, even if you decide to kill one, how do you choose which one? Now, of course, all my repulsively young students always say, well, obvious, isn't it? You shoot the oldest. They've had their life, they're a waste of time. You can't save the young people, but shoot the oldest. I always think, well, I used to think I was good, and then I started getting a bit older and started thinking that's rubbish. Old people are repositories of wisdom, they know stuff to live that ripe old age. Young people, what do they know? They're easy to make, and they know nothing. So we can just get more of them. So that changed my view a bit. But should you shoot the person who wants to be shot? Or perhaps the village needs to throw at people, and you shoot the person who's snivelling at the back, because who needs cowards? Should you respect the choice of them to have a certain member shot or not, if you can speak to them? So I think the dilemma is quite good, because it presents both a traditional utilitarian versus deontological dilemma regarding, do I kill one to save many or not, in a very violent, very personal, very real way. Alternatively, once I've chosen that, how do I choose who dies? Which reminds me of the dilemmas that I was given as a child, because I grew up under the constant threat of nuclear war, during the 70s and 80s, and we had at school debates about who would you put in the bunker, who would you save. So there were those things. So in that way, it's a good dilemma, and it has useful aspects. And I think it's a useful aspect for people to think through. What would you do? How many of you would pick the gun up and shoot the person? How many would say, I'm not prepared to do that. I didn't intend when I started this day to be a murderer, and I'm not going to end this day being a murderer. And I feel bad that other people have to die or might have to die, but it isn't me killing them. It isn't. I'm not pulling any triggers on any people, therefore I remain innocent. Is that how you might feel? So I think it's a useful dilemma with regards to that, although in a second I'll speak about why I also think it's rubbish. Now, I just said that this was a rubbish dilemma as well as a good dilemma. Why is it rubbish? Well, when I talk to students about both this dilemma and the trolley car dilemma that you can see in another video and of course all over the web, I say to them, how many of you have actually had to face either the trolley car dilemma or this kind of jungle dilemma, we'll call it, in your lives so far? And as yet, fingers crossed, no students have ever had to, and oddly, it never happens to me. It hardly ever happens. I'm going about my business and I'm forced to either save 10 people or shoot someone in the face, and that never happens hardly ever, which is good. And I think it'd be a much more difficult day if I had to. But there is an accusation which I think has grounds, good grounds, which says, well, shouldn't we have dilemmas that actually might happen to most of us, genuinely, quite often? So I worry that having this kind of dilemma, although interesting and valuable in certain ways, might lead us to a view that what ethics is a discipline and a way of thinking that only applies to rare, unusual events that happen once or twice or 3 times in your lifetime and don't actually happen every day. Well, of course, it might be more valuable and more important and ultimately worthwhile to think actually ethics is something that happens to us all the time, every day. I haven't made decisions today when I came to work about whether or not I kill people or kind of sacrifice people in order to save others and things like that. But I did choose whether I drove or came on the bike. That might be an ethical decision about polluting other people's environment. I did choose what shirt to wear and who made it and how much it cost. Is that not ethical? I did choose whether or not to have fair trade coffee or not in my coffee this morning. I did choose not to have dead pig for bacon, but have vegetarian breakfast. Example. So ethical decisions might be things that I make all the time, some which are more obvious given our concentration on fair trade and the like. Some of which you might need, or we might need, reminding are ethical, like, do I hold the door open for people when I come in the building, or do I happily let it slam in my colleagues' faces behind me? Normally the latter. Do I treat other people in a way that makes them feel good about themselves, or not? So in every interaction I have, either indirectly through retail or whatever, or directly in terms of any kind of interaction with a human, do I use that opportunity to make them feel better or worse? Surely every little interaction, every little thing I do could be classified in this broader way of thinking as ethical. And so I think that we might, if we only concentrate on these kind of dilemmas, and or they're interesting, they're useful, and they're good ways of clarifying things, but if we only concentrate on these, we lose something about ethics that is ultimately really, really valuable. And I think we're in the world of philosophy and ethics in real danger of losing. So I think we need to remember that actually we carry out ethical actions or unethical actions or actions which have an ethical component all the time. I think we'd be wrong to forget that.